pound fighters are
Terence Crawford, Inoue.
What's good, YouTube? It's your boy, Blue Blood Sports TV, back at y'all with another one. So what you just heard was the voice of undefeated 3-division world champion, former undisputed junior welterweight world champion, currently the reigning WBO, World Boxing Organization welterweight world champion, who is widely considered by many to be the #1 best pound-for-pound fighter in the world, in Terence Bud Crawford. Terence Crawford is 38 wins, no loss and no draw, 29 big wins by way of knockout. He is 34 years of age, 5'8" with a 74-inch arm reach. With that said, Terence Crawford is on the brink of fighting the biggest fight of his career, which is the biggest fight in the sport of boxing, which is him versus his biggest rival in undefeated, unified 3-belt WBC, WBA, IBF, Ring Magazine, welterweight world champion, superstar boxer who is widely considered top 2 best pound-for-pound fighters in the world, in Errol the Truth Spence Jr. Errol Spence Jr. is 28 wins, no losses, no draws, 22 big wins by way of knockout, 32 years of age, 5'9.5" with a 72-inch arm reach, okay? This makes for the biggest fight in the sport of boxing, and clearly there's no love lost between the two. And Terence Crawford, he explains that he believes that Naoya Inoue is a better fighter than Errol Spence, okay? Naoya Inoue is a 3-division world champion, okay? Naoya Inoue is the Bantamweight unified world champion. He has a record of 23 wins, no loss, no draw, 20 wins by way of knockout, 29 years of age, 5'5" with a 67.5-inch arm reach. Okay, he's coming off of a dominating, devastating knockout over multi-division world champion, surefire, 4 world champion, 4 world weight class world champion, superstar boxer, Filipino iconic boxer in Nonito the Flash Donaire, in which he knocked out Donaire in the second round in their rematch. The first fight that took place back in November of 2019, he just did so June 7th. He brutally knocked out Nonito Donaire to pick up the WBC title, right? So with that said, he is the WBA, the WBC, and the IBF, ironically, Bantamweight world champion. Those are the same belts that Errol Spence holds, okay? The WBA, the WBC, and the IBF, right? It's ironic that those are the belts that he holds, okay? But with that said, I just discussed the fact that 90% of the pound-for-pound list have Naoya Inoue, right, as their #2 best pound-for-pound fighter in the world. Some even have him at #1 best pound-for-pound fighter in the world, okay? But here's the problem that lies, as I stated in that video, and I'm going to tell you, reiterate it again in this one, okay? Yes, he's a 3-division world champion, but the weight classes that he's become a world champion in 3 separate divisions is a total of 6 pounds separating the 3, okay? A total of 6 pounds. So Terence Crawford jumping from 130 to 135 is 1 weight class, and that's 5 pounds. He jumped a total of 6 pounds, okay? A total of 6 pounds to become a 3-division world champion, okay? So with that said, you know, it's not a big difference in the weight classes when you're dealing with the lower weight classes. And the biggest name on his resume is Nonito Donaire, okay? Yes, he's beat some qualified opponents in the lower weight classes, but those guys are not surefire first ballot Hall of Famers, okay? They're just simply not. Errol Spence has fought the better opposition. And my guess is this: Terence Crawford cannot name, okay? Terence Crawford can't name 6 opponents that Naoya Inoue has beaten in his career, not named Nonito Donaire. Not even 5. I'm almost certain that Terence Crawford can't name 5 opponents, massive, big name, future surefire Hall of Famers, or just on the brink of being Hall of Famers in Naoya Inoue's career, that he has beaten. I'm certain. He can't name 5 other fighters. As most people can't name 5 other fighters on his resume. You just can't do it. Right? Everybody's basing it off of, yes, he's aggressive. Yes, he's athletic. Yes, he's explosive. Yes, he gets knockouts. Right? Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. In 23 fights, 20 knockouts? Absolutely. But who has he knocked out? And Nonito Donaire is 40 years of age. Has he beaten anybody on his resume that equal Errol Spence going to the UK and beating Kell Brook for his IBF title, breaking Kell Brook's right orbital bone, in his first title opportunity in front of 50,000 screaming fans in a hostile environment? No. Did he beat 2-time welterweight world champion, superstar boxer, who's the surefire Hall of Famer, who fought everybody and never been blown out in any fight, and was competitive in the fights he lost? He won all the fights he was supposed to win, and the fights he was supposed to lose, he came up short, but he didn't come up hugely short. He came up competitively short in 2-time welterweight world champion, superstar boxer, Showtime Sean Porter, which ironically is the biggest win on Terence Crawford's resume. The biggest name and the biggest win on Terence Crawford's resume is Sean Porter, whom he beat in November 20th of 2021, and Errol Spence beat him in September of 2019 when he was a world champion in a unification bout. Terence Crawford beat Sean Porter, defended his title. He was the mandatory challenger. Errol Spence beat him in a unification bout. Arguably, Sean Porter coming off the biggest win of his career, the 2 biggest wins of his career, when he defeated 2-division world champion Puerto Rican superstar boxer Danny Swift Garcia, Sean Porter did. Then he beat Dana Sugas. The 2 biggest wins of Sean Porter's career, coming off of those 2 biggest wins, that's the version of Sean Porter that Errol Spence beat. But that's the biggest name on Terence Crawford's resume, and his name is bigger than anybody on Naoya Inoue's resume, not named Nonito Donaire. Now, Nonito Donaire is more accomplished, is a much bigger superstar, surefire first ballot Hall of Famer. I give him that head nod over Sean Porter. But Naoya Inoue beat a 37-year-old version of Nonito Donaire, then a 40-year-old version of Nonito Donaire. He was far past his prime. A 37 and a 40-year-old version of Nonito Donaire. And the first fight, Nonito Donaire surprised many people getting to the finals of the Super 6 tournament, and he broke Naoya Inoue's face in doing so. In loss. He lost, but he broke Naoya Inoue's face in doing so. At 37. 37. So imagine Nonito Donaire in his absolute prime. That's the biggest name on his resume. Right? So, ironically, Sean Porter is the biggest name on Terence Crawford's resume. Errol Spence beat him 2 years ago. Going on 3 years ago. We in 2022. Right? Then, Nonito Donaire is the biggest name, right? Then Errol Spence beat a guy that can rival Nonito Donaire in 4-division world champion Mexican superstar boxer, first ballot surefire Hall of Famer, who was top 5 pound-for-pound fighters in the world by the time he beat him. And that's Mikey Garcia. Errol Spence beat him at his own game. So many people are saying, well, Mikey Garcia was a little guy. Well, so is Terence Crawford. If that's the case, how could Terence Crawford and Errol Spence be the biggest fight in the sport of boxing, but Mikey Garcia gets discredit for his size, but Terence Crawford doesn't? He qualifies? This is equivalent to when people say, Floyd Mayweather beat a small 4-division world champion Mexican superstar boxer, Hall of Fame iconic superstar in Juan Manuel Marquez. But he and Manny Pacquiao was the biggest fight in the history of the sport of boxing. But Marquez is bigger than Manny Pacquiao. And Marquez arguably beat Manny Pacquiao. They fought 4 times, and he brutally knocked him out in the last one. The first one ended in a draw, and you can make a case he won the 2 in between. But people will tell you that Juan Manuel Marquez was too small for Floyd, but he's at 5'6" with a 68-inch arm reach, the same size as Mikey Garcia, and Manny Pacquiao's 5'5" with a 67-inch arm reach. They get the job done differently. But people will tell you that Marquez was too small for Floyd. He gives Manny Pacquiao all types of problems, arguably won all 4 fights. Brutally knocked out Manny Pacquiao, and is bigger than Manny Pacquiao, but they'll tell you that he was too small for Floyd Mayweather. Just like people will tell you Mikey Garcia, who was a world champion at 140, was too small for Errol Spence. But Errol Spence's size wasn't the difference. Mikey Garcia tell you that he was 2 steps ahead of me in everything he did. He outboxed Mikey Garcia for 12 rounds. He beat him at his own game. When you had the likes of Sugar Ray Leonard, Hall of Fame iconic superstar boxer, legend, saying that Mikey was going to win the fight simply because he was Mikey and a better boxer. And here Errol outboxes him and beats him, and we want to talk about the size. Size didn't play a part, skills did, and mindset did. Just like when Floyd beat Juan Manuel Marquez. But Terence Crawford started his career at 130. So Mikey Garcia is a champion at 126, 130, 135, and 140. That's only a weight class behind 4 pounds separating Terence Crawford at 130. So how could Terence Crawford qualify as the biggest fight in the sport of boxing and get credit for fighting Errol Spence, and Errol Spence get credit for fighting him, but he don't get credit for fighting Mikey Garcia, who was top 5 pound for pound at the time Errol Spence beat him and was an undefeated champion with 39 wins and no losses and no draws, 4 division champion? Who has Naoya Inoue beat that's pound for pound better than Mikey Garcia? Who he beat that was on the pound for pound list at the time he beat them? Nobody. Then he suffered a horrific car accident, that being Errol Spence. 14-month layoff, came back and fought 2 division world champion Puerto Rican superstar boxer Danny Swift Garcia. Suffered an eye injury, broken nor detached retina, came back a year later and beat the WBA champion who dominated Manny Pacquiao in his farewell fight, and that's Cuban superstar boxer Yordenis Ugas, and he breaks his ribs, breaks his nose, and breaks his orbital bone, and taking his belt off a year layoff. Who has Naoya Inoue? Great athlete, very good to great boxer, very skilled, very explosive. But who has he beaten? If that's the case, his accomplishments is the same as undefeated 3 division world champion superstar boxer Gervonta Tank Davis, who is 27 wins, no loss, no draw, 25 wins by way of knockout, 27 years of age, 5'5" with a 67-inch arm reach. Naoya Inoue is 5'5" with a 67-inch arm reach. Gervonta Tank Davis 5'5" with a 67-inch arm reach. He's a southpaw explosive, and he's knocked out all but 2 opponents. Inoue has knocked out all but 3 opponents. And the level of competition, Gervonta Tank Davis has beaten 4 division world champion Mexican superstar boxers, first ballot future Hall of Famer, and Leo Santa Cruz, and he gets disqualified for being Leo Santa Cruz because they tell you Leo Santa Cruz is too small, but he's 5'7" with a 70-inch arm reach. He's actually taller and more rangy than Gervonta Tank Davis. He is making weight as a skill. Leo Santa Cruz can make weight. But you give Naoya Inoue all the credit in the world for beating a 39, 40-year-old Nonito Donaire, but you don't give Tank Davis credit for beating Leo Santa Cruz. It just don't add up. So Terence Crawford saying Naoya Inoue is better than Errol Spence is just not true. And it's just a dig at Errol Spence, point blank and period. And again, like I said, if you ask Terence Crawford on the spot to name you 5 fighters that Naoya Inoue has beaten in his career, not named Nonito Donaire, I can guarantee you he cannot name 5 guys that are world champions, on the brink of being Hall of Famers or Hall of Famers, or on the pound for pound, or on top pound for pound list. Just can't do it. So that's all I got for y'all. Make sure you hit the like button. Drop a comment in the comment section. Let me know what y'all think. Y'all already know what it is. It's your boy Blue Blood Sports TV. Hate, like, comment, and subscribe. You haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, hit the bell icon, and get all the new notification. Follow me on Instagram at Blue Blood Sports TV, all one word. Y'all already know what it is. Shout out to the entire LDBC. Shout out to New Media. Shout out to Black Media Row. Make sure you like and share these videos. That's all I got for y'all. Peace.